Cold Java with WAPTEK. Here we go. First question is from someone I'm going to let you figure out from the question. If racism is institutional and systemic, and so-called black people only own and control 0.5% of this nation's wealth and power, how then can they be racist? Because racism has nothing to do with whether or not you have power. It has to do with whether or not you believe someone can be judged based on their race or whatever. It's a form of bigotry. It doesn't matter if you have power. One of the things people do these days when they find out something they yell at people applies to them, like this black Nazi, who's all into we was Kangs, big-headed aliens, and didn't do nothing, is when you find out that you're defined, your entire basis of existence for the last 2 years has been based on you being a racist, you then decide to change the meaning of the word racist. You can't be a racist if you don't have power in order to inflict yourself on other people. That's not actually part of the definition in any way, shape, or form. This is something people tell themselves while they're trying to do something bad. To that person, maybe you're not a racist, you're a Nazi. So here we go, next one. The ISS hexagon cloak, NASA starshine, artificial sun or moon patents versus Nibiru Planet X fakery by people who wouldn't admit the damn thing is actually on the ground and not in orbit and is 12 feet across and can't emulate the sun or the moon because it can't. So someone says, well, look up the flat earth on YouTube or Google. They know the truth. I can't tell if this person's making a joke about how bad of an idea that is or if they really believe it, because that's not the only one who said the same thing. Next part. Look up the government experiment called Bluebeam, a hologram that makes people think there is a god. Again, I can't tell if they're making a joke. And why don't you look up where that meme came from and find out that it doesn't have any basis in reality, and holograms don't work that way for the same reason that setting up something 12 feet across isn't going to emulate a sun or a moon. Because it doesn't. And holograms don't make things not appear. These are things that people don't like hearing about because then they have nothing to talk about. Underskin microchip implant keyring versus RFID badge you have in your hand so you don't have to have your hand cut open. Most people don't like getting a tetanus shot. This is a short answer to someone's complicated question, which I'm going to bring it down to one thing. If somebody implants a key in your arm, you get your arm cut off. Nobody's going to implant these things. You may have noticed even though this is available, virtually no one does it because it has no practical value. Someone said that Sigmund Freud said that the majority of humanity is not smart enough to govern itself. Freud's wrong. They need an elite class to point them in the right direction. I don't like Freud at all now. Would people do fine without leadership that is either smarter than them? I'm not making fun of the person who asked this question, but have you actually listened to Hillary talk? Or God help us all, Bill Clinton? Or God help everybody? Well, the less traveled Bush. No, I don't believe any of that at all. People generally rise to the occasion. See also our grand experiment this time of seeing if Donald Trump can rise to the occasion and actually be a president, instead of perpetually trolling the hell out of people. He eventually has to do his job. I don't think he was prepared for this. Any one of you can rise to the occasion and be a leader. It just happens. You find it within yourself. We're all capable of leading. Some are more equal than others, but this isn't Lake Wobegon. The average at 100 IQ is the average. That's what it's called. So, again, Hillary is an example of why smart people aren't really running the planet. So, I'm sorry, Freud's wrong. I didn't look up whether he said it, I just thought it was entertaining. And I do believe this is one of my favorite questions this week, because there is this presumption that they're smarter for some reason. Do you believe the evolutionary process is intelligent or guided by an intelligence, as opposed to blind chance? It's not blind chance and it's not guided by an intelligence, but there is a mechanism, a system in place that's evolved as well, that has caused this to be most likely. And it's caused by the fact that a small number of dimensions will cause an extra number of dimensions, because it happens. I'm going to do a video on how dimensions escalate. When I think about that, questions like these are fascinating and concerning to us humans. But that doesn't mean we're able to give a definitive answer. Do we need an answer for survival? Maybe all this stuff is about final causes only. And I have an opinion on this. But it's like a system that's not supposed to be intelligent, can become something that seems sentient, especially if it's very large and has lots of variations in it, and mutations and changes over time from breaking and repairing itself, seemingly. It doesn't require an intelligence, but it's also not blind chance, because even though there's an unlimited number of possibilities and, quote, anything can happen, that's not really true. There isn't an infinite number of combinations. Only some combinations are more common or more probable. For instance, hydrocarbon-based life forms and amino acids are the most likely, but not the only possible combination, but they're the most likely. Aristotle's very ancient metaphysics and how it's formed and said, as best I can get a translation, and this is probably a worse translation on Earth, versus the 5 drivers or components of evolution. I'm going to read the Aristotle version first. Matter, a change or movement. Material, cause. It's the aspect of the change or movement which is determined by the material that composes the moving or changing things. Now the example comes in and actually makes this clear. You'll see this pattern or format again. For a table, that might be wood. For a statue, it might be the bronze or marble. Okay, now we've kind of figured out what was said in the first sentence there. I'll leave it below as best I can. Form. From matter, we go to form. A change or movement's formal cause, as in form, is a change or movement caused by the arrangement, shape, or appearance of the thing changing or moving. Aristotle says, for example, that the ratio 2 to 1 and the number in general is the cause of an octave. Please understand we've learned more about music since then, and you might want to learn a little bit more about that, musical theory versus actual biology. Agent, a change or movement's efficient or moving cause consisting of things apart from the thing being changed or moved, which interact so as to be an agency of the change or movement. For example, the efficient cause of a table is a carpenter, or a person working as one. And according to Aristotle, the efficient cause of a boy is the father. Okay, now remember, we're dealing with Aristotle's, well, let's just go on for the next. Those are 4 causes. Next one, end or purpose. A change or movement's final cause is that for the sake of which a thing is what it is. For a seed, it might be an adult plant. For a sailboat, it might be sailing. For a ball, it may be the top of a ramp. At the top of a ramp, it may be coming to rest at the bottom. Its ultimate goal or purpose. The purpose or aim of an action or to an end toward which the thing naturally develops seems more like a meta-argument from consequences, and this is destroyed by Darwin. The idea of evolution not making sense, which another comment I had today, is based on the idea of consequences. People do arguments from consequences because they don't like what it means to them. They don't like the consequence of it. For the same reason they don't like understanding that, in essence, in a computer, it's a bunch of transistors switching on and off. It's a bunch of binary decisions that aren't really black and white. It doesn't have to have a purpose. That seems inelegant and it's deeply unsatisfying, but now I'm going to read the evolution main drivers. Short and sweet. Mutation. Most of us know what it means. Genetic mutation. Migration or gene flow. This is simply creatures moving around due to other factors, usually environmental. Random genetic drift. Small populations only. When there's genetic changes and shifting that just happens because it happens due to errors and buildup, but not really full-on mutations. Non-random changes caused by preferences or biases in the individuals or in the group. And then natural selection, which is almost entirely driven by the environment. That's a lot shorter with 5 causes that actually have to do with how evolution works versus all of this stuff here that basically talks about the ends and the means and our biases. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.